Hello, everyone, and welcome to this recorded virtual Q&A for the Capote tapes. I am Victor Jimenez, the Executive Director of the Outshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival. This is our 22nd annual edition and our first virtual edition. The festival is presented by Gilead and Miami-Dade County, as well as through the great support of our Producer Circle members. One thing we like doing is we like having community partners. We believe we grow stronger together. Tonight's community partner is the World's AIDS Museum. And right now we're going to do a quick little video from the World's AIDS Museum.
It's the first AIDS museum in the world.
It's a great place to come and learn about HIV/AIDS.
It's a celebration of life.
Thank you, World's AIDS Museum. And now, time for what you've been waiting for, which is the pre-recorded Q&A for the Capote tapes. So bear with me while I share the screen, and you will get to enjoy it. Capote tapes. The Outshine Festival is presented by Gilead and Miami-Dade County. So let me now welcome in the director of the Capote tapes, Yves Burnough. Welcome, Yves.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm sure our audience definitely enjoyed your documentary. It was, I believe, your first documentary, correct?
Yes, first film.
This was a large endeavor for your first film. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was based off of 3 years of work. I had been reading 3 years ago a book on the building of CBS and on Bill Paley, who founded CBS, and in the process, I rediscovered Truman Capote and his relationship with Bill's wife, Babe Paley, and that sent me down a rabbit hole, kind of re-examining Truman's life and examining their relationship together.
That's interesting. How difficult was it to, it was 3 years of work here. How difficult was it to produce and direct it? Just the whole process there.
You know what? I was really lucky. I had a great crew. I had a great production team based out of the UK, based out of London. And so I think it was a wonderful first experience, and it flowed really, really well. But certainly in terms of Truman kind of lived all over, and trying to reach people who knew him certainly, and who interacted with him. A lot of those people were getting up there in age, so there were a lot of things like time that I felt like I was running up against the clock to try and tell this story. But I was also super lucky to get these amazing audio tapes that George Plimpton had done when he was working on his book on Capote, that also just opened the door and shed a lot more light on the man and the story.
What do you feel like? Do you feel it's harder to make a documentary about someone who is well known, as opposed to maybe some story that you fall in love with, but then no one really knows about? Do you felt it was a benefit or hindrance creating this story about someone that, is a known public figure?
Yeah, it's a great question. I definitely think it was harder because he was a known public figure. And the big question that I had was, would I have something new to tell? What there had been 2 feature films on Capote, and obviously Philip Seymour Hoffman won the Oscar for playing him in the film Capote. What would I have new to tell? And so in that sense, it was exhilarating, because we actually, in my research and with my research team, we felt like we had new things to talk about and new directions to go in about Capote. but there were certainly moments where I thought, oh my gosh, I really wish there wasn't all of this already out in the universe about him, and a preconceived notion that a lot of people had about who he was.
And I'm curious. It was a good lead-in for my question. Is like, what was your preconceived notion of who Truman Capote was?
Well, I knew the writing from my childhood. I think I first read Truman around 12 or 13. I think it was a short story, Miriam. And then, of course, I went on to read all of the other books. But I kind of had him pegged as this brilliant, sarcastic, kind of mean, in some ways, the bitchy queen, for lack of a better term. And I think that was a preconceived notion that was completely true. And as I did the research, was certainly a big part of who he was. But there was an entire another aspect to him as a human being that I felt like people had missed. And that actually pushed me and propelled me even more forward in feeling like this was a story that had to be told. It was kind of like excavating a life from the graveyard, because it was very layered.
Oh, interesting. I'll do your first experience of Truman Capote's much more refined and cultured than mine. My first experience with him was actually in the movie Murder by Death, where he was
Oh yeah,
one of the characters, and that's the first time my experience with him. You had actually a great quote in Variety magazine, which I'm just going to read out right now. As a Black gay man who grew up in northern Florida, I was always taught to remember the people on whose shoulders I stood, the people who made life a little easier for me. I guess that's a two-part question. Who taught you that on one end, and how does that relate for you to Truman Capote?
well, that was just something that was really taught by my family, and certainly my mother, in terms of being thankful for those who came before you and paved the way and made it a little easier. Truman, I think, going back to your earlier questions, I never thought of Truman as a parental figure. I never ever thought about, obviously I knew about his friendship with Harper Lee and his friendship with these New York fabulous jet set women known as the Swans, but it was meeting Kate Harrington, who was the daughter of one of Truman's lovers, who Truman effectively adopted at the age of 13, and she moved in with him, and she still very much considers him her father. When I think of that story, that for me was put Truman in a different category, because he wasn't just a literary genius or a television, pundit or personality, should I say, but he was actually a gay man in an era when he was out. It was difficult to be out, let alone create a family for yourself. And I think for me, as a gay father, I think I wanted to be mindful that I wasn't taking just for granted the fact that my husband and I were able to create the family and the life that we wanted to. Truman really had to do that in a time when that was really not accepted and was very, very avant-garde. And so I think in that way, in terms of creating your own family and mapping that out, was just an extraordinary thing for me when I realized that about it.
No, that's a very, very good point. Just out of curiosity, because me and my husband have a family. How many kids do you have?
I have 4. I have three. I have three older sons, and then we have a 4-month-old daughter.
There we go. I have one son about to turn 7, and one daughter about to turn 2. So yeah, the whole thing here. It's always interesting. What where's like with the Capote tapes? Where's it going next? Like, does it have more festival runs? Is it going to have it's a weird year. I can't say is it going to have a theatrical run, because nobody even knows that anymore. But like, where's the film going next?
Well, we've been doing a lot of the festival circuit, which has been wonderful. And again, thank you guys for having us. And then the film was slated to be in theaters in September. Greenwich Entertainment is our distributor. We were slated to be in theaters in September. Obviously, now we are kind of reworking all of the scheduling, but I think we should be out in some form or another at the end of this year or early 2021. So in the next few months, we'll have some more details to share, but it should be out for hopefully people to see, either, knock on wood, in theater or in some way on virtual cinema, something like that. So it's coming.
That's good. And you're, it's one of that weird, it's that weird question, because I think everybody's in the same boat. I mean, even like major Hollywood releases are in that same boat. And what about you? How have you been using, I guess, this quarantine time? Like, have you been creative? Are you thinking about your next project? What is your next project?
I wasn't creative in the beginning. I think I was like a lot of people. I was a little bit just stuck. And then our daughter was born in April. And so that kind of completely, as you know, that unstuck me, because there was a new little being that needed full attention. And it oddly did get me creative again. And I've been working on a couple of different projects, actually 3 different projects that I can't talk about yet, but that I feel like now are actually really starting to pick up pace and move. So I'm very hopeful that I'll have some new things to talk about very soon. I'm excited, actually.
No, definitely, because then we'd be excited to actually see it, and hopefully we can have all your new stuff for future festivals and the whole scenario.
Fingers crossed.
I know. It's been a crazy year. I do want to share with the audience watching, if you haven't actually watched the film yet, you're watching this Q&A virtually. Basically, the film was released Wednesday, August 26th, but it's actually, you'll be able to watch it through Outshine until the Sunday the 30th. So you can, if you missed the actual first release, you have more than enough opportunities to catch it and learn more about the film. And then and to give you a little bit taste of it, we have a clip we're going to share with you right now. So just bear with me while I bring that up.
Well, it's so nice to hear your voice. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm doing this huge history of good old Truman Capote. Yes. And the people that he knew and who talked about him, either pro or con, they all seem to have their Truman stories. Yeah. And I was wondering if you could gather up some of your memories. And one of them seductive people.